Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello, people, and welcome to Footy Judgment. I apologize for being late. We ran long on the football terrace. There was a lot of talks about Lewis Kelly and Jadon Sancho. We actually spent 50 minutes talking about Jadon Sancho back to United. 50 minutes talking about the 5 million. All of this because Chelsea do want to redeem him. What is exceptional? Did I do something wrong in the title or something? Exceptional. Okay, I did something. I made a typo.
Exceptional.
Exceptional.
Okay. Khalas, it's easy correction. I did correct it.
Spelling police.
Spelling police is here. And everyone understands what I mean, right? But everyone wants to correct you. But big up Suraida for correcting me. And Nyayo, of course. Big up everybody that is here. Guys, welcome everybody that joins from the Football Terrace. Hit that like button, people. Thank you so much for joining us. All these guys' channels in the description. Rory Talks Football on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, everywhere. Dan's channel in the description as well, doing great things. He hasn't done videos lately, but we're going to push him to do more videos, of course. You've done one video or two videos in the last week.
Yeah.
I'm on to you.
Okay.
On to you. And we got Wolfie. Of course, Rational and Wolfie. A lot of people said that Wolfie is here only for the agendas, but we know that Wolfie just is Rational, of course. Staffy TV. Big up my man for waking up. Inshallah. May Allah yataqabbal siyamak and everything, inshallah. And Jamie's story is here, replacing Tom Little, who couldn't wake up early or something. Like Osam, by the way, Osam missed the football terrace because he couldn't wake up early. Do you guys know that? He completely missed the show because he was praying. He was up praying all night. It's the last 10 days. It's going to be a different show. I actually was asked a question on one of the shows that people want to assess the seasons for all the teams in the Premier League. And the reason why, because there are a lot of talking points about this. Because Mikel Arteta, and lately a lot of Arsenal fans have followed that, saying that because of the context, because Arsenal were never top of the league, and because of the injuries and the circumstances that happened, staying second is actually good, and it's going to kickstart their coming season. And the likes of Nwaneri and the likes of Lewis Kelly coming to the picture is going to make Arsenal stronger next season. A lot of people saying that Liverpool, which is actually the opposite of Liverpool. I'm hearing an echo somehow. Is it for me or someone? I don't know. A lot of people are saying that Liverpool season have been, yes, successful, more than expectations in the league, but they should have gone further in the Champions League. They should have won the Carabao Cup at least because they were favorites to win that. For Chelsea, people are 50-50. We spoke about this before. People are 50-50 about this. Are they on course to achieve? Is it like Are we judging them wrong? Something like that. Nottingham Forest are the only team that everyone thinks that they exceeded expectations. The question is, are they going to be here next season? There is a massive echo or something in the background, guys, from somebody.
I can't hear it.
It can't be me.
It's not Rory.
I
I mean,
know what you're talking about. It's not me though. I'm on mute.
Okay, now it's muted. Now there is something running in the background.
I'm on mute, so
It's actually your mic. Once you turn on your mic again, Wolfie.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is. There is this coming from your mic.
One
There's something in the
second. Let me
background.
tweak.
Yes, your mic is too loud. Yes. Anyway, guys, which team should we start? Guys, before we go on and talk about this, can we get the likes up a little bit? Get to 200 likes right off the bat. Also, Man United. There is Man United season that is nothing but shambles. But based on what Amorim has to offer, a lot of people are saying if he finishes top half of the table, he exceeded expectations. He's getting players like Xerxes playing, De Ligt. He's getting players like Garnacho.
So it's not completely
Oh, Europa League as well. What if he wins Europa League? Where do we start, actually?
Still, but
You're the host. You tell us where to start.
I think
Lenny Euro.
we start with
We're
Lenny
doing
Euro.
Lenny Euro again. I don't think he played this week, so I don't think we should do that.
No,
Actually, who first of all, who's had the better season out of all these teams? Okay, we're gonna
Liverpool.
exclude Man United.
has to
Who
be.
have
just our
exceeded the
teams.
expectations?
Exceeded expectations.
Liverpool.
Has to be
Liverpool
Liverpool.
and Forest. What's that?
Liverpool
Yeah,
Forest.
Forest.
Forest is
Yeah,
the
Forest.
obvious one. But if you want to have a
Bournemouth,
debate,
maybe.
Liverpool,
Yeah,
so
Bournemouth.
Liverpool, so not winning the cup, is that a failure? Not going far in the Champions League, is
Liverpool
that a
exceeded
failure?
expectations. Let's just be honest.
Yes.
I think a lot of people predict them to drop off. But I
Even
think I was
Arne
one of the
Slot
few
has
people who
exceeded
didn't, and maybe
expectations.
that's why I'm not looking at it as such an exceeding expectation. If they won the Champions League in the league, yeah, then that's probably exceeding.
No one expected them to win the league. So by that,
Yeah.
by
Expected them
default,
But
to
wouldn't
compete,
that
though.
be? Wouldn't that go with the run that Man City are bad and Arsenal are bad and had the context around Arsenal injuries? So that is, and Salah is having an exceptional season. Individually, is it not why Liverpool cannot be exceeding expectations? I'm running the net. I'm playing devil's advocate here because a lot of people are saying Liverpool won the league for two reasons: Arsenal and City being that bad, and Salah is having an exceptional season. That basically he's gonna be the highest player to get GA ever in the Premier League history. That is basically an exceptional season.
but
But both
did
can be
anyone
true.
expect them to win the league?
No, I didn't.
No. So by
I did.
default, they've exceeded expectations.
Okay, but here's the thing: how many people didn't put them in the title race?
Quite a
I think
lot.
that's
A
a
lot.
better
A lot of
No,
people said it would be much
I
closer
put them in the
than
title race for sure.
So can
Yeah,
everyone
I
here raise your hand if you didn't think Liverpool would be in a title race? If you didn't, raise your hand. Okay, so just Rory.
I was
Only
not by
Rory didn't
myself.
think-
I was not by myself on that. It
Wait,
was-
did
No,
sorry,
no, no, I'm
did-
not saying you were. I'm just saying
You
where
did
look
did
like
it
by yourself.
I remember the conversations. The majority of people, from what I remember, it's most likely going to be like Arsenal and City right until the end of the season, and that Liverpool might be there for most of it, but would drop away again. Like I don't remember anyone really like legitimately suggesting that Liverpool would push the title race all the way to the end of the
So,
season.
so here's my take behind this. The reason I'm saying this is that, all right, number one, let me just address what I said in the summer. My prediction for Liverpool this season, before it kicked off, that they will be closer to competing for the league with Arsenal and City, which clearly didn't happen when it comes to at least the City. I said they'll be closer to that than anything else that involves a top four race. So at least by my own standards, they kind of did what I thought. I didn't think they'd win, but I can't say someone who I expected to be in a title race when they go ahead and win it, is it such a great achievement in terms of like, oh my God, I didn't see it happening. Like they massively overachieved. I don't think so.
Yeah, but
I think the
they
fact
could have
that they got
exceeded their
knocked out early in the Champions League, it kind of takes away from that. If the fact that they did what's it called? They didn't win the Carabao Cup, they didn't make it far in the FA Cup. It kind of diminishes a little bit from what they did in the league, where I'm not looking at it. I'm like, oh my God, that's so impressive. I still expected players like that, like these players, to be in a title race. It was only because of Arne Slot. Let's be honest. Like on the team itself, we didn't think that team is not a good enough team to compete. It was just the Arne Slot tax.
We're gonna repeat again, and I'm gonna ask Rory a couple of questions. Rory, and then you answer yes or no. If I asked, or a team, if I asked you, Arsenal would fall off and City would fall off, who would you say would win the league?
Liverpool.
Do you think Arsenal and Man City have played bad this season and fell off?
To an extent, yeah.
Okay, so that answered the question.
No,
So
it doesn't
basically,
answer
they
the
did
question,
what they
because it's
expected from
based on
them.
like because you can't change the context and then say what because at the start of the season
I
I didn't
didn't.
expect. But at the start of the season, nobody expected that both Arsenal and Man City would simultaneously
Yes,
fall off.
I
for a
didn't.
season.
I didn't. Yeah, I didn't.
Right.
But did they?
So-
But did they? But did
Well,
they?
but if we add all of the context that we now know, then obviously everyone's expectations,
Yeah.
expectations.
Yeah, but
is
that's the
about
whole
what you
point.
think
But
will
that's-
happen in the future
That's the
without
whole
knowing.
point. That's the
No,
whole
I
point.
agree. Rory's right in what he's saying. Like the expectation for a lot of people, maybe not like there might be a select few, but majority of fans and pundits would have said Liverpool, if they were doing really well, might have been able to push for a title. But the likelihood is that top four is going to be their objective. However, as the season progressed, everyone's expectations changed and said they were unbelievable for so long, especially the start of the season in the Champions League. And now, because they've been poor the last few games, knocked out of the Champions League and obviously lost the final, everyone's saying, well, they've been disappointing, or they should have done better, they should have expected more. But the reality is, at the start of the season, that wasn't the case. So they have 100% exceeded expectations this season.
And even the League Cup and the Champions League, I think if you'd said at the start of the season Liverpool are going to get to the round of 16 in the Champions League, but they'll lose to PSG on penalties, I don't think people would have been like, "Oh, that's awful."
Yeah, but
And if you said they're
that
to
Champions
the
League
Carabao
has
Cup
to
final.
change. Okay, but that Champions League run has to change once you become top of the Champions League group and you have been playing the best football in the
But then,
world.
so it's not. But then, so we're not talking about expectations at that point. We're just talking about what happened. Like, there's no. It's not based on expectations. If you change,
but expectations change
you-
in the
okay,
beginning of the season,
okay,
Rory, right?
have Forest exceeded expectations based on the knowledge that Man City and Chelsea and United and Spurs and everyone else is going to be crap and
Yes,
Brighton are
still,
gonna have
yes, because I would expect Fulham, Brighton, and Aston Villa and Newcastle be ahead of them. Yes.
but they're not.
Yeah,
because
so
they've had
at
worse
least 10 places they've exceeded expectation probably for us, because people had them tipped for relegation off the back of last season.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. Like we should.
Yeah, and
no
then
one
you can
had us where
Wolfie,
we
then you
are.
can make maybe the argument that 6 teams have failed to be at the level that we thought they might be at. So they've
It
sort of
doesn't
Well,
need
that's
to be
exactly
about
what we're
6
saying.
teams
That's
failing,
exactly-
Dan.
But that's exactly what
It's
we're
more
saying.
about the
with City and
jump.
Arsenal.
Look, jumping
I
from
think
second
the
to first is a
expectations-
big jump.
Yeah,
That's-
but I think the expectations for Liverpool were that the squad was obviously good enough to push the
Compete
best
at
teams
least.
in the league,
Yeah.
but no one knew what Arne Slot would be capable of, and that was where the doubt lied. So I think you'd
Yeah.
actually the better. Obviously, we're doing this which teams exceed their expectations, but realistically, I think Arne Slot has exceeded everyone's expectations rather than what this Liverpool squad of players were capable of doing. Because I think we all
Yeah.
knew Salah could be an amazing player. We all knew that they'd spent a lot of money on midfield the previous season. If that clicked, they could be good. They've got the best defender, best goalkeeper in the league. Obviously one of the best fullbacks as well.
I even think the way they ended last season. I think that because the way that they
But they were in a
collapsed at the end of
title race last season. They just fell
They
very
faded
early.
off,
Well,
they were
not
the
very
first
early.
to
They
fade.
obviously got
Yeah.
to like this.
But I think the
point.
way that they fell, then the fact that they didn't make any signings in the summer, and then you've got Arne Slot. I just don't think people expected.
No one
Liverpool have
expected
improved.
them to win the
Liverpool
title,
have
but
improved
also
from
we have
last
to be
season.
honest, Rory. Like no one expected Arsenal and City to be that bad this season. No one.
No, I agree.
So,
So Arsenal-
so
so Arsenal
basically,
have
based on
fallen below
okay, so based on
expectations.
let me rephrase the question then. Based on the context that we have this season, are Liverpool doing what they're supposed to do?
Yeah, but that's no longer based on expectation. Once you
Not in our expectation at the beginning of the
Yeah.
season, but the expectation based on the context, the hindsight you're seeing. And if I turn and say, are Forest, even in the context we're seeing this season, are doing what I'm expecting Forest to do? No. I'm still, even if Arsenal are bad, or City are bad, and Newcastle and are bad, or sorry, City and Arsenal are bad, I'm still thinking that Forest are punching above their weight or exceeding expectations. Why? Because even if you tell me in the beginning of the season, Arsenal are going to be bad, City are going to be bad, I'm not going to tell you, oh, Forest are going to be third, challenging for second. That
But
wouldn't be in my
Liverpool aren't
wildest
punching
dreams.
above their weight, though, are they?
They aren't.
No, that's what I
Um,
mean. So I don't think
That's
anyone-
my point. That's my
Do you know
point.
what?
That's why Dan raised the point that it's correct. Dan said, because of what we're seeing now, yeah, Arne Slot has exceeded, but the team is where it's supposed to be.
I still think positionally, yes, but I still think even with the context of Arsenal and City falling away, the fact that Liverpool have actually improved on last season, they're going to most likely, unless they just kind of sack off the rest of the season because they've already won it, most likely end up on more points than last season. Like the fact that, okay, Arsenal and City have fallen off, but they're 12 points ahead of Arsenal. And okay, like 20 points ahead of City? More than that?
25.
Like 25 points ahead of City. Even if you'd said City are going to have an off season, the fact that Liverpool have improved, got more points, they've lost one game in the Premier League this season. That is
But they're not overachieving, are they? Because if someone had said to you that a team with no, I don't think they are, Rory. Because if everyone said,
I think Rory's getting the point.
There's a team here, and I agree with you, by the way, with most of what we're saying here. I just don't think to say they're overachieving in the same sense as Forest are. Because I think if you looked at Liverpool,
no, I don't think they are. I don't think they've overachieved more than Forest.
Yeah,
I think they've
wasn't that
overachieved.
the original question?
Forest have massively overachieved.
Wasn't that the original question?
No.
Who's exceeded expectations?
Who overachieved was the question.
Who has overachieved?
It's just who's
But, like,
overachieved.
Forest
But
have
by
overachieved.
the way, we need to
the
put in
people
context
did it.
what happened
Both
during
have.
the season. Okay, guys, we need to put in context what happened during the season. Like,
But
we're
that's
not
not
gonna
based
say
on expectations.
Rory is 100% correct.
Well,
If we're
No,
doing
I-
this, okay, let me just add this, Jamie.
yeah.
Rory is 100% correct if we're saying based on what your predictions in the beginning of the season. Yes, Liverpool are over exceeding expectations, but we have to look at the context of this season. For example, and we're gonna come to Chelsea. For example, are Chelsea exceeding expectations? No, because we are watching the season, and because of the context that is happening in this season, Chelsea are not. Even though a lot of people has had them outside the top 5. So let's rephrase this discussion and say you have to analyze the context of the season and see is the team where they're supposed to be based on the circumstances that happened during the season. That is the better question, maybe.
But so you're saying for Arsenal and Man City, they've dropped off. So the expectation for them is they were going to compete and win the Premier League. That's the expectation at the start of the season.
Yes.
So then when they drop off, you have to put it into the relative terms. So you reset your
For
expectations. which is
Liverpool,
what you're doing.
yes.
No, but for Arsenal and City as well, you say they've dropped off.
For Arsenal,
at-
what we're going to say, so let me give you an example. For Arsenal, we're going to say, based on the injuries that happened to them and all the circumstances and the window, and also we're going to say for City, based on Rodri's injuries and all the injuries they had, are they where they're supposed to be? For Chelsea, same.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that at the start, so we've reset the expectations of Arsenal and Man City because of the stuff that has happened with them. But at the
Yes.
start of the season, the expectation was Liverpool weren't going to compete for a Premier League. They had a new manager that nobody knew what was going to happen with them. They didn't make any major signings and they dropped off at the end of last season. So that was the expectations, that they weren't going to be able to compete. Then as
Wait,
the
hang on,
season
hang on.
progressed,
Why were the expectations that they couldn't compete when they had 4 or 5 players that are the best in their position in the Premier League?
because that
and
was
they-
just the natural
and the-
consensus.
And a huge reason for the drop off last season was probably the fact that Klopp announced that he was leaving, and I think it killed a lot of the momentum.
Agree.
Realistically, I think the only person at Liverpool who anyone was doubting was maybe a couple of players that were questionable. But realistically, it was just the manager and what he'd be capable of. I think everyone knew that in the right hands, this Liverpool team is definitely good enough to compete against the best teams in the league.
Yeah, Dan, I
Yeah, they
agree
can
with that.
compete.
I predicted them to win it because their team
I
was
said
the most
openly, I
stable.
think they'll be third, but that was because I definitely
but
felt that
my
Arne
logic
Slot
behind it
was risky. I felt like if they'd gone for Inzaghi or someone who was coming in with higher pedigree, I would have been like, they'll win the league. But it was because I
but
didn't know
your point on the
what Arne
squad is
Slot was
spot on.
capable of doing. Arne
Do you know what I mean?
Slot
Your
has
point on the
proved me
squad is
wrong.
spot on.
The squad hasn't. The squad is everything maybe Salah has. I probably didn't expect him to get to that level, but I still expected him to be the best right winger in the league. And he's proven to be that. Obviously, a number of other players, I expected him to be the best centre back, the best goalkeeper, best fullback. They've all done that. I don't think Liverpool's playing squad has exceeded my expectations. I just think the manager's done better than I thought he would.
Yeah,
No,
so
I agree.
they've exceeded expectations as a team. Do you know what I mean? Because like at the start of the season, you had them third, so they've exceeded the expectations that you had set.
Yeah,
No, they haven't.
Because you didn't
They haven't
know.
though. They haven't though, because I think maybe Arne Slot as a manager individually has, because there's been moments where I didn't expect him to be smart enough. Not sorry, that's wrong to say, but didn't expect him to act in the way that he did and be proactive enough to change the outcome of games this early on. Not knowing the squad inside out in less than half a season, he was already doing that. He showed his intellectual knowledge around football very, very quickly. Showed how competent he was at doing that job to make sure that he got the most points possible. But I always knew that this Liverpool team would go on to win a number of games because of the ability in their side. And if the other teams above them faltered, they would be there.
But the issue with what Mo's saying is that, so Mo's saying that because of the context, Arsenal and Man City haven't performed below expectations because of the injuries and stuff like that. Like, we've ended up where we should end up. But
my
overall,
discussing what we thought at the beginning of the season to now.
No, we're not. But that's what I was trying to explain.
Oh, I thought that was was that not?
No,
the
but this is
question?
where
I was
I'm getting
trying to
confused because
explain.
You can't say.
You can change it for Arsenal and Man City and then not change it for
But
Liverpool.
I won't. But I won't
You
because
did.
Mikel Arteta. Okay. Mikel Arteta in his press conference said one thing. He said because of the context and the injuries we had this season, I think we're exceeding expectations. We can debate that. We can debate. In his context, he's saying because of the injuries. For example, Manchester City are saying all of the players. We really had the most important player of us injured after couple of games or some games. So we are where we are, and if we get Champions League football, I think this is where we are now. That is the conversation here, because we all know our expectation at the beginning of the season is Liverpool third. So based on that conversation is over. Exceeded expectations. Done. Season is a success. Check mark. It's over.
Yeah.
Right. But looking at which is what Staffy presented in the beginning of the show, he said, looking at the context of this season, with Liverpool playing that magnificent football, you are expected to go further in the Champions League. You are expected to win the Carabao Cup against Newcastle, and you are expected to win the league. Have you succeeded in one? Yes. Have you failed in the other two? Yes. Have you gone out to Plymouth in the FA Cup? Yes. So you have failed in this. Based on the context in the season, you actually have failed. Yes, the season is a success because you won the league. But hear me out. The season is a success because you won the league. But in the other topics where we are expecting you to win, you failed. Let me give you there is a lot of other examples of this as well.
But
that is the whole point. I want to put context into it of what happened.
If you're to say, okay, so X team is the best team in the Premier League, therefore the expectation is that they also win the League Cup, the League Cup, the FA Cup, and the Champions League because they're the best. We're expecting the best team in the league every year to win a quadruple, and if they don't, they fall below expectations.
No, that's not my point. But are you okay? Liverpool going away to PSG and winning 1-0, logically speaking, the best team in the world at that time, and one of the toughest grounds in Europe. When PSG come back, I'm expecting Liverpool to go through. Did they fail in that?
Yeah, but so based on that, you then expect them to beat. You do expect them to beat PSG. So then you're also going to expect them to beat.
No, I wasn't expecting them to beat. And yes, they are. Yes.
So then you're expecting them to beat Real Madrid because they've already.
No, I am not, because they are not better than them as much.
This season.
Yeah, but Real Madrid have picked up the form. But that's why we look at context, Rory. We have picked up the form, Real Madrid, in the Champions League.
If they up against Arsenal instead of Real Madrid, you'd say, well,
but Arsenal and Liverpool, head to head this season, Arsenal have proven to be a very resilient team against big teams.
Yeah, but Mo, I think you're jumping from one extreme to the other with this, okay? Because we can't say they've won the league and then the rest has been failure. I would categorize Liverpool as having a successful season, but not a scintillating season. You can't put it into failure or anything like that in those other competitions. Yes, you'd expect them to beat PSG 1-0 up after the first leg. Yes, you'd expect them to beat Newcastle. But honestly, if you're asking a Liverpool fan, would they give up a Carabao Cup and the Champions League to win the Premier League? I think they would have taken the Premier League more so this year than any other trophy. So, yes, I think they've had a good season. They've beaten expectation because not a lot of people had them down to win the league. But in the context of it, they could have gone and made it a sensational season, but they didn't. I think that's the key point. It's not a failure. It's just not going to be remembered down in history like a Centurion season or an Invincible or whatever. You know, that's the difference for me with the context.
Yeah, but that's rare as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was looking at the stats for, say, 90-plus point season. Man United have only done it twice in a 38-game season in Ferguson's entire time managing. So those exceptional seasons don't happen every so often. We've just become so normalized
City
to
have
it because of Man City.
reconditioned how we think about it. Yeah.
Everyone's like, if you don't get Guardiola, I think averages across his entire managerial career is 91 points. So he comes into the Premier League and you just see him constantly winning game after game, going into title run-ins, and he doesn't lose a game. Like, that's what we're programmed to think is the norm, but it's not. Like, Liverpool getting 90 points this season and winning the league by, say, I don't know, say if it's 9 points or 8 points. Like, that's kind of normal in terms of the grand scheme of winning a Premier League. And that's not where Liverpool were expected to be. So that is them exceeding the expectations that we had set at the start of the season.
Can we start? I want to ask a question.
One second.
Stop saying expectations in the beginning of the season. That is different.
Mo, 1 second. I'm just trying to understand something. So Liverpool had a normal season, but yet we're trying to say they overexceeded because we didn't think they'd have a normal season. Like, these are the actual words that you just said right now.
No, a normal season for title winners, but that's not what we expected Liverpool to be at the start of the season.
Why didn't we expect this Liverpool team to win the league? If you ask me, did I predict them to win the league? No. But guess what? If there's a title race between three teams, if I predict one of the three to win and one of the other two win it, yes, it's not my prediction, but I can't sit here and be like, oh my God, I'm so shocked. What an overexceeding that they did this year. Like, someone has to look at La Liga this year. If Atleti, Barcelona, or Real Madrid win, none
of them exceeded expectations.
Exactly. One of them is going to win it. Most of us here have different predictions, all right? Someone might have Barca, someone might have Atleti, someone might have Madrid. Some of us will be wrong, but we can't sit here and be like, oh my God, what an overexceeding of expectations. It is a title race. I don't understand why we're putting a team that was in a title race last season, didn't lose any of their major players. Yes, I get it. They got a new coach, so maybe there was a little bit of a adaptation period in the beginning that maybe some people like Igao thought, oh, they're going to drop off because of it. But guess what? It didn't happen. So I just don't know why we're giving them the underdog gimmick too much.
You're using the La Liga example, whereas probably the Bundesliga example is better. That Leverkusen won it, and it was against Bayern. But they were in a title race. But the deeper context is that every season, more likely than not, Bayern is going to win it. So when you bring it to the Premier League, the context is for the last 4 years or whatever it is, everyone's expectation and what's happened is that Man City has won it. So the context is different, that if someone outside of Man City wins the league, then the context is that is an exceptional performance.
So were we going to apply the same thing to Arsenal? Because that's the energy that I don't like. Everyone in the beginning of this season, before the City had the disaster season and obviously the injuries and all that, everyone said, no, City are going to win it again. Arsenal this, Arsenal that. If Arsenal would have went ahead and won it, no one would have said, oh, they overexceeded. But guess what? Because guess what? When they didn't win it this season, everyone is shitting on them, saying, how did you not win it again? You're the bridesmaid again. I feel like the energy just switches all the time.
But that was because people were far more of the opinion that Arsenal could win it than Liverpool. Like, the vast majority of people, if you told them to rank the top three, they'd have either gone Arsenal, City, Liverpool, or no, it's not. Because again, I think if Atletico win La Liga, that's exceeding expectations. Because the expectation generally is
I don't think
Barca or Real, and maybe Atletico.
We're talking about a team with exceptional players in who aren't exceeding expectations with what they're doing on the pitch. We all know they're excellent players that are good enough to win.
Mo Salah is exceeding expectations.
Okay, Mo Salah is still at. Mo Salah's obviously exceeding expectations of brilliance, but we already know he can achieve brilliance. Do you know what I mean? So we knew he'd be the best. He's just doing it even better than we thought. But the rest of the players, Van Dijk, Van Dijk,
I think the whole midfield is over. The whole midfield exceeded my expectations.
I think Gravenberch might have exceeded expectations, but I don't think I'm seeing better.
Yeah, you can name a couple individuals that did, but I just find it hard to
know
understand.
I think everyone is missing.
The team with the best winger in the league, the best defender in the league, the best right back in the league, the best goalkeeper in the league, And then when they win the league, they exceed expectations.
And Staffy, and last season they spent the most days top of the Premier League out of any side. So
But
like,
for the
they're a
majority
team
of that, we were all saying that it was unsustainable. And then when it was unsustainable, we all went, saw that coming. And then they fell away. And I just don't think anything happened.
I want to ask Rory a question.
Mohamed
Again,
Salah's spell
Dan.
after the AFCON and the injury, like that's what obviously helped hinder Liverpool's season last year. Was Mo Salah's.
Are we not putting in context Arsenal injuries and City's injuries?
No. Well, we are. We can talk about that in a minute. But if we're just saying Liverpool, I'm kind of in this boat that I knew this was an excellent team. If they went on to win it out of a 3-horse race, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see Arne Slot doing what he's done. But as a team of players in the right hands,
you don't have to have been like
winning trophies. We know.
It's so easy.
You
to
don't have
say
to have been completely shocked. You don't have to have been completely
shocked. And do you know what? Luckily, though, Liverpool got put in the right hands because Arne Slot was a good appointment. If Arne Slot was risky, but it was a good appointment. Arne Slot was as risky as hiring potentially Amorim, Maresca, hiring managers from second string leagues in Europe that have won stuff, bringing them in. It can go wrong or right instantly. They might have to learn. There might be a period of adaptation. Arne Slot, luckily for Liverpool, didn't require as much as what Amorim and Maresca have shown. And ultimately, it's in the right hands. But this squad of players...
Yeah, but Dan, Slot was judged.
Hang on, Wolfie. This squad of players, this Liverpool team, this tight-knit unit, didn't get broken up, barely had any changes over the summer. We knew they were capable of winning games of football and going the distance in a number of competitions. They were, two-time finalists? No, not two-time finalists, but obviously most days spent at the top, won a League Cup with their C team last season. Like, this is a team that we know how to win trophies and games of football.
Yeah, but Dan, would you agree that a lot of people didn't know anything about Slot and just judged him on the comparison to Ten Hag?
Yeah, everyone did.
Everyone we all did. We all did.
Ten Hag coming from the Dutch league.
So then he's exceeded our expectations by
he has.
Yes,
he has.
He's part of Liverpool. We can't now just separate the manager and the team.
Yes,
he actually did.
We've known for the last 5 years that this Liverpool team are capable of pushing the best teams in world football over the distance of a season or in the biggest games. Capable
of pushing.
They won the league in 2020. They've won a Champions League since then. No,
5 years ago.
But then they dropped out. They dropped out.
They won a Champions League 2019, and then they won a Champions League 2018-19, and then won the league 2019-2020. So they haven't won the big two in 5 years. So how do we know that they're going to be able to get to that?
We know they're a solid team.
Yeah, but that means they haven't won that, so they've exceeded the expectations of what the normal expectations
I feel
is.
like
They can't win.
You just won the underdog gimmick, bro. That's what you want. You won the
underdog gimmick.
Everyone loves an underdog story. You're not an underdog. I'm not letting you guys get that. Because I tell you what, 2 weeks ago, when the guy went viral and he was getting cooked on Twitter for saying Liverpool will drop off and everyone cooked him, no one was saying that. Everyone was cooking him.
Staffy is an underdog. It is an underdog. Man City won his last four Pete.
Yeah.
Expected to win it again.
You're saying, it didn't blow me away. Like, I wasn't completely shocked.
They're going to win it for the rest of the time.
Let me finish, Staffy.
Rory,
you keep talking about being the fact that it's not like completely shocked you as if like a Leicester winning season. You can still be over expect. If this stream gets 1,000 likes today, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, that's the most incredible thing. I never saw it coming. But I'd be like, it's probably above expectations. Because it's above
Mo said we're not doing that.
Mo is getting 800 likes on this stream every time he does it, and he goes to 1,000. I wouldn't be shocked. Be like, okay, he just went up 20%. If he was getting 200 likes and he gets 1,000, I'll be shocked. Then Liverpool were in a title race. People telling me right now in the chat I have an agenda. I'm actually putting respect on this Liverpool team more than the Liverpool fans because I'm saying I expect that from them. So if my agenda is that I rate this team and I'm not shocked that they won a league, I guess call it an agenda because I'm putting respect on their names. I'm just not gonna run this underdog gimmick. I apologize. Sorry.
Can I have my say in this very quickly? And I'm just gonna put this to bed, to be honest with you. And I'm gonna repeat the question again, right? Everyone knows that Arsenal and Man City underperform because of the context and the injuries and all the stuff. If you ask 10 people who's gonna win the league if that happens, 10 people will tell you it's Liverpool Football Club. Even with Arne Slot. Nobody will say Chelsea. Nobody will say Forest. Nobody will say Newcastle. 10 out of 10 people will tell you Liverpool. And if you go and ask 10 people today, did Arsenal have injuries and they fell off? They're going to tell you yes. And you ask 10 people, did Man City have an off season? They're going to tell you yes. So logically speaking, Liverpool is exactly where they are. What Wolfie said is spot on. At the end, no matter what the context is, it's a successful season. If you tell any Liverpool fan before the season, I'm going to give you the Premier League, regardless of the context, they're going to tell you, absolutely, I'm going to take it and run away with it. So in the history books, it's a very successful season for Liverpool. But because of the context of this season, and because this team already has world-class players, and because of how Arsenal fell off and City, Liverpool are exactly where they're supposed to be.
I think that's undermining it a bit more.
Why? How am I undermining it?
Yeah, because everyone's playing this Arsenal narrative of injuries. Yet when Saka was still fit, Arsenal weren't top of the league. Liverpool were. So this whole narrative of if Arsenal had their players fit, they would.
We did have Ødegaard out for 2 months before the Saka injury.
Now you're talking, Wolfie. See, that is an argument I can debate. Now you're talking, Wolfie, that Liverpool and Arsenal, when both of them were fit, Liverpool was still top. That is explained. That is
Arsenal haven't had a point of being everyone fit.
Yeah, but you're now talking like Liverpool haven't had an injury all season either. Jota's been out for ages. Diaz, Gakpo's been out for a while as well. They've all had injuries.
Not
the injury that the Arsenal fans try to hide behind is the Saka one. But unless they can show me the table when Saka was fit and that Arsenal were top,
I think losing Ødegaard was just as significant as losing Saka at the time.
Sorry?
I think losing Ødegaard for 2 months right at the start of the season was.
I think Ødegaard losing his form is worse than him being injured. Because
I think both go hand in hand. I don't think
we've played 12 games this season where Saka and Ødegaard both started. We've won 9, drew none, 1-9, drew 3, lost none, scored 30 and conceded 7.
But then you could look at your squad depth and say, why wasn't recruitment done in the summer to bring up a backup 10? Or you could look at it and say,
though. Yeah, but that's
like if Salah got injured and then you went, oh, why haven't they got another world-class right wing?
That's a very different issue, and we're going to come to this with Arsenal. But in my opinion, at the end, Liverpool, as Jamie said, from the beginning of the season, and as Rory said, which is I agree, from the beginning of the season, have exceeded expectations. Have you expected them to win the title? No. So that check mark. But based on the context, they are where they are now, right? And they deserve to be here. And there's context around it. And they are where they should be because of what happened. And we move on from Liverpool. It's 40 minutes. It's a lot of time. Let me do the super chat first.
Jadon Sancho.
big up the boy from Bonnie Bridge. Thank you so much. Core of the Liverpool had won the Premier League, Champions League, and has been in multi-Champions League finals, over 90 points multiple times. They had proven their levels, no shock, except for Arsenal.
Mo, the whole season, remember this narrative when they were saying, oh, we haven't played anyone big yet, and they were just mocking Arsenal fans for saying that because Arsenal fans were predicting them to drop off. Throughout the season, every Liverpool fan, every time they beat a big team, they're like, oh, guys, remember, we haven't played a big team yet. So they were backing their team the whole season, saying, we are good enough to do this. And now that they won it, they're like, oh, I can't believe I won it. You know what? I'm such an underdog. But the whole season, they weren't telling us they were underdogs. This whole narrative is actually sickening. You're not an underdog.
Let me respond to this. Jack, Mo, I have a clip of you of Arne Slot has 0 chance because I didn't know Arne Slot. None of us did Arne Slot. Slot out. I'm saying it here, Slot out. This is one of your biggest content creators on YouTube, Hussam, saying Slot out because he didn't know who Slot out. Tom wanted Slot out. Everyone wanted Slot out because nobody knew who Slot is. So have some shame, Jack. As Dan said, Slot exceeded our expectations.
Don't worry, Jack. I predicted Liverpool to win the league at the start of the season.
You're the only one on the internet. You're the only one on the internet. There's a clip of Wolfie saying that Liverpool are expected to win the league, which is very crazy.
No, expected. I predicted.
Anyway.
What were your exact words, Wolfie?
Hmm?
What were your exact words?
Because of I had it in my table. I did my prediction at the start of the season.
He put Liverpool top of the table.
We'll do it next year.
Yeah, but my reasons were their team is the most stable, the most a team that knows each other the best. because they didn't recruit much. I saw that as a benefit rather than a hindrance. That
So
was
you
why.
predicted him to win, yet you're sitting on the stream and trying to convince me that they did overexceed.
I don't really care if you're
I think
convinced or
that's
not,
crazy,
Staffy, if I'm
actually.
honest.
At least Rory.
والله خلاص
Rory
my head
said,
my head
I'm
is gone.
expecting to be in a title race. At
Yeah,
least the
but
guy
the
said, I'm
problem
like,
is just because
So
I
his
predicted
prediction
them
happened.
and my knowledge is
spot
better
on.
than most, man.
yeah,
I
he
can't
can't
help
believe
that.
it. The only one on this stream that can say that exceeding expectation is Rory, because he didn't have to even in a title race.
Yeah, but
Wolfie,
Rory
that
owned up
was
to that,
amazing.
like straight away as the show, as we asked the question, Rory put his hand up and said, "Yeah,
Yes.
they did better than what I thought." But Wolfie, that is nuts.
His prediction happened spot on. It's like you predicted the exact numbers for the lottery and you won. You're like, oh, I can't believe I won it. Bro, you put the numbers. You put the numbers in yourself. You
Yeah, but
predicted it.
lottery isn't based on
Yeah, but
logic.
a lottery
bro.
is a random event. Staffy.
Exactly.
He's done it.
I mean, that's
off
probably
of
not even a great
evidence.
analogy. I'm
He's
just
done
trying to
off of
say it
how
was
he
his
felt.
own words.
He analyzed the
Wolfie-
season, he analyzed the
analysed
team.
it. Thought they're going to
Absolutely,
win it.
man. I
Now
took
he's
it
going
apart.
down. They've done better than what I
I
thought.
took it apart. I also expected 115 for Man City. All these things came into account. You know what I'm saying? So it worked out.
did.
Now I had
So
Chelsea
when City get
second,
charged,
man.
are you going to be
I
Wolfie,
had
can I
Chelsea
tell you
second.
something?
That one
Will Inter win the Champions League, Wolfie? I just wanted to know.
No, bro. No.
Get the low
No,
numbers
no.
off you.
Shit.
No, but don't get too excited because I had Chelsea second, then Arsenal third. So
Okay, all right then.
Ma-
Go ahead, Jamie.
Man City fourth. Is that what I was just going to say?
Yeah.
Was that you
Uh,
predicted?
yeah.
One word, hindsight. It is easy to say we didn't exceed expectations with
Yeah.
the new info that City fell off. When the trend has always been City will win even when starting poorly, spend in January. I agree with you, but this show is March 24th, where Liverpool are already kind of crowned the Premier League champions. So I'm doing this show in hindsight. Literally
also,
in hindsight.
every single
My
one
man,
of us
like it's
has
based
our
on
opinions,
hindsight.
and there's evidence of everything we've said online forever. So you can go back and check, and most of these will be validated with what people are saying. So as much as you want to say hindsight, it's all out there to see whether we had hindsight or not, and our opinions have changed.
Anyway,
So we're all
Arsenal,
right.
though.
Well, no, but
talk
I
about
don't think anyone's sat here now like completely swinging from where they were. That suggesting that hindsight's changing our opinions, I think is false. I don't think that's the case because I think everyone's sat here.
But it does,
aligned
but
with-
actually,
Yeah, but hindsight does change opinions. That's the
but
whole.
does change
No,
opinion. Like,
but
let me give you an
I don't-
example. Rory said it
I
many.
don't remember
Rory
anyone
said it
saying
many.
anything different. I've
Yeah,
spoken
but-
to Mo, I've spoken to Staffy, I've spoken to Rory all season. Wolfie, I've spoken to you a lot. I don't think anyone's changing what they were saying. I think everyone's just exactly where they were before the season.
Yeah,
with
but
their
Dan, I
opinions.
don't think it's a big deal. It's like if someone said to
Yeah,
you,
because Chad
you would
said about
expect
hindsight.
Forest to
Chat
beat
makes
Man
it a big deal.
City at the start of the season, a lot of people would have said no. But if someone said to you the day before the Forest Man City match, I expected Forest to
I
beat Man
expected
City
Forest to beat Man
because
City.
of what you're seeing, because of hindsight of the season so far. Big deal. Someone's changed their opinion. I don't get why this whole thing is. If I see new
Yeah, but
evidence, I
don't think
change my opinion.
because the original. Yeah, but when you talk about expectations, we're suggesting what was mentioned at the beginning of the season. So no one has sat here and changed their opinions in hindsight. Everyone's just still got the same opinion as what they had, and now we're discussing it where we're all at different points in what we felt like our opinions would see and if they matched up or not.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm.
Second team on the table, Arsenal. Do you agree with Arteta, Rory? That because of the injuries,
What did he say?
he said that because of the injuries and the context that happened, I think it's good that we are second now on the table.
It's not good.
Okay, let
be
me
worse.
just step something. Okay, being second is not good. Arsenal are expected to win the title in the beginning of the season. You look at it's exactly as if Liverpool lost Mohamed Salah, for example. Looking at Arsenal season and the context that happened and not getting a striker, do you think he's overachieving being second? Because he said, other people interpreted that and said, look at Man City. When Rodri got injured, look where they are. They're fighting for top 5, but Arsenal, with all the injuries, stayed consistent to be second on the table this whole time. That is the argument. Look at the others, and okay, realistically, Man City is supposed to be better than Arsenal, right? Like they're 4-peat winners. And look at the fall off versus the fall off from Arsenal. That is his argument, basically.
Yeah, I think we've done well to at least keep ourselves out of that top 4 race.
By the way,
which would be my
quarterfinal of the Champions League, they got
Well,
knocked
yeah,
out. They did
look, the
horrible
season's
in the
not over
Champions
yet,
League
but-
as well.
Yeah, look, no, I think yeah, we've done, the group of players that we've had available has done well to do what they've done. I think it's still like a below expectations season
From the beginning of the season,
from
yes.
the beginning of the season, yeah, and I still think some of it's our own. You know, we can sit here and say, oh well, you know, we've not had a strike of however long, but that's our own bed that we made, so can't really can't complain about that. So yeah, I think it's for me, it's a disappointing season in terms of the Premier League, but it could be a lot worse, and it's a good sign at least about the kind of strength of the overall squad, that even in a really bad season where a lot of things don't go to plan, you can still finish second. I think really it's more about how badly Man City have handled their situation. I think it's almost not spoken about enough how poor Man City have been, because yeah, you can talk about Rodri, but that's not a big enough reason for the fall off that they've had.
Also, they spent 200 million in the January, and look, they are still fighting for top. They're still losing games.
Yeah.
After all of this,
Man City's recruitment is, I know, like in recent years, it hasn't been up to scratch. Like you look at bringing Gundam back. I think Savinho could be a good player. Doku could be a good player, but they're more long-term projects. Whereas they lost, say, Sterling, Sane, Mares from that kind of three that they had in terms of wingers, and he plays so much where he wants people getting to the byline. KDB is obviously started to slow down a lot since the last couple of seasons. Last season, he was picking up a lot of injuries, and there was a lot of stuff going on in the background apparently with Guardiola. So they haven't bought right, and I think that 200 million that they spent was just a way to we need to get into the Champions League, because otherwise they're going to be scrambling then next season. Where I know money is not a big thing with them, but with the scrutiny on them at the minute, they need to make sure they're in the Champions League to be able to go out and buy players and improve their squad. So I think it's their own doing where the situation where they're at the minute, bringing back old players. Some of the signings have been poor. So
I don't think that's why they bought the players. I think they bought those players to try and win the Champions League, not to get in the top 5.
This season, you think they bought a 21-year-old Uzbekistan international to win the Champions League?
Yeah, I'm talking like Marmoush, Nico coming in. That was all in line. Do you not think Man City were looking there in January thinking we can still win this Champions League?
They didn't buy. The only player that you could potentially say was Marmoush, and other than that, no way.
What's his face? The CDM.
Huh?
Like even Nunez, Mateus Nunez.
But even Nico is obviously for the future, and probably just to rectify the mistake they made with Gundogan in the summer. I don't believe any of those players were really brought in to win the Champions League this season.
But that's the whole point. Forget that. Arsenal had to play with Nwaneri, with Moreno, with Trossard, sometimes with Jorginho, with Lewis Kelly as left back, with Zinchenko, with Sterny, and they still maintain a quarterfinal of the Champions League. They're still second in the Premier League. While Man City, they had injuries. They fell off completely. They went out of the top 5 completely. They bought a lot of players, and they're still fighting for top 5. Doesn't that prove that?
Arsenal are a slightly different trajectory, though. I think they're still they have the core of a team that is need 1 or 2 additions. Whereas I think Man City, they had an aging squad and they bought bad players to come in. So they have kind of a mix of everything. And I think Arsenal definitely have coped a lot better with the injuries that they've had. But I just think Man City is it's just a team. It happens all the time. Teams just come to their climax and then they just start to fall down. And it's normal what's happening with them at the minute.
He said, I think they admitted it, yeah.
Yeah, he admitted. He said the reason they didn't rebuild last summer was because of him. He postponed it, thought that he can get more out of these players one last season, basically, where he can juice them out for maybe one more Champions League final, one more Premier League. And he said I was wrong. And if anything, this January Nubbin spoke about this a lot on the show. He said, if anything, he expects them now to go into January and expedite whatever signings they were going to make in the summer, bring them in now. Hopefully, will improve this season. But either way, just expedite now the rebuild, because we're technically now half a season late. So let's not wait a whole year. So I
Yeah.
think the answer
Yeah.
was obvious all along. Arsenal were in the same situation. I think this Arsenal team is closer to its peak than City is, because City are past their peak. We just were expecting to see this Arsenal team peak now or whenever, because they have more players in their prime. They have more players entering their prime. And I honestly thought they had a better bench. I know we sit here, we make fun of Arsenal all the time, but when you really look at their bench this season, it doesn't help City that they had all these injuries. But when we look at their bench, I thought their bench was just better than what City had. They were bringing in Gundogan in desperate emergency signings and stuff like that. They had this. Don't forget, Kyle Walker was there. They had so many dead
Yeah.
players in this team. So I'm not really that surprised. Obviously, within the context of the season, but I'm not really that surprised that Arsenal coped with their injuries a little bit better than City. I felt like they were better equipped in the context of just this season.
Well, I think Arteta was more pragmatic. He was willing to do more to make sure that he got results to keep his team afloat in a title race rather than Pep. Pep was going to die on his sword that he would play in a certain way. And without certain players, his system broke down and failed. Whereas Arteta would win games on set pieces if he had to, if he was restricted to certain elements in a game, or he would set up more defensively and be pragmatic to get results. So I think that was where Pep ultimately failed. And if he wasn't Pep Guardiola, I think he would have got the sack.
I don't think that
Remember
matters.
that 13-game run?
Yeah. But for
was
at
the best
least 7-8 games of that, he did nothing about it and just sort of said it will work. And then eventually he was like, hang on, I might have to do something different here. Then they recruited different profiles in January. And he also suggested his team might look to play in a different way. And then obviously it kind
So
of
for the long
showed.
term, which one is better then? Arteta who
Yeah,
adapted, or Pep Guardiola who stuck to his principles? And at the end,
when
Arsenal
you
might
say
finish
long
second.
term, what's the window of long term? Because
Yeah.
it's long term over the whole
No,
season.
it's only
or-
2 years. It's only 2 years for the.
No, yeah, but
in my,
when you say long term, what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
for the
Because
like for
Guardiola.
next season, for
Oh,
example, start the next season.
I-
Who
Do you know what?
starts the season better in your opinion?
I'd actually say Arteta, because I don't believe Arsenal will lose their style so much. The confidence will still be that they can compete against teams in the Premier League without a full strength side. And then if they do recruit, the belief will still be there next season. Whereas Manchester City, there's a number of players that are going to look around and go, we were so off it last season. Can we get back to the level that we were 2 seasons ago before a ball's kicked next season? I'm not sure.
See, I
think
disagree.
Man City have got to flick it again completely. The only thing that Man City have that no one else has is Pep. And if Pep went and won the league next season, I don't think any of us would be shocked.
Yeah, but the thing, when you look at Arsenal, I look at their football 2 years ago and think it was scintillating. They were playing good football. I think they've lost their identity and style.
Okay. They've been restricted at times this season because of injuries.
Don't
but I
say
think
injuries. This whole Saka narrative is not. You can't rely on one team.
Odegaard's been injured. They've had when they
Ben
then
White's
had
been out all
replacements in.
season.
They've all been in. They've
Ben
all
White's been out, but every Arsenal fan tells me Timber's the best right back in the league.
But Wolfie, they bought in
Well, I don't. So no,
Marino at the start of the season to cover for midfield. He got injured straight away. Calafiori's had a number of injuries. Everyone they recruited in the summer has had injuries or has not been fully fit, like Raheem Sterling as well.
They signed Mikel Merino, Dan, before even the ball was kicked. The guy broke his shoulder.
100%. Arsenal have had issues this season that have restricted how their playing style would look. But what Arteta did was make sure that he got results in a time of need, which is what managers like Enzo Maresca haven't done.
I don't really get. If I'm an Arsenal fan, I don't care about that crap. I look at it as another failed year. Because you can say that. Look, you can say, Dan,
in the circumstances of the injuries and the
no, Dan, because you're missing the bigger context of it.
No, I'm not, because they've also had red cards this season that are absolutely ludicrous, which has cost them points.
Okay, did they have red cards in the FA Cup?
Arsenal because I want them to win. What I'm saying is that I genuinely believe to suggest that Arsenal have failed this season purely on Arteta is false. They've actually survived in a title race for longer than anyone expected with the type of injuries they've had.
They're the first of the losers. But Dan, my point is, did they have red cards? Did they have red cards in the FA Cup? Did they have red cards in the Carabao Cup? Why didn't they go and at least win a domestic trophy if they weren't going to go and win the league?
That's a failure.
Yeah, but because we said before this season started as a whole that the majority of people on here said Arteta needs to go and win a bigger trophy than the League Cup. So we basically pushed that away.
Yeah, or what? Or it's classed as a failure, yeah?
Okay, then you'd say potentially he could go and win the FA Cup and a Premier League. With the actual injuries and issues that his squad then had, it pretty much proved to be impossible that he could go and do that and be able to fight on all fronts because he just didn't have the numbers and the ability to do so. Rory's already said before we got into this conversation, Wolfie, that it isn't a good season before the season starts to not win the league for Arsenal. He's already said that. But then when you dig a little bit deeper and you look into it, you can see why, and you can make excuses for it not happening.
You can't.
In that case, Wolfie, Forest have had a shit season because you're not going to win anything.
It kind of sounds the same. Yeah, it's right.
But Wolfie, just logically speaking,
you are third losers. We're second losers. Well done. Hope you're
What
proud.
was your expectation? What was ours?
Well, we've gone now back to the expectation once you factor in injuries, etc., of what would happen. And if you told me we were going to
this a new phenomenon that has never happened in previous seasons? Is this new?
Name me a team that won the title with the significant sort of injuries that we've had. You look back through pretty much every title winner and their season that they've had. One big common denominator normally is that their squad is fairly fit through the whole season.
So again, the agenda moves from calling it Salah FC to injuries now.
But hold on, Wolfie. You can say that they planned wrong. They didn't get enough depth. You can say that. Yes, they should have signed a striker. That is apart from what happened in the season. That is pinned on the manager and the sporting directors in the planning, not during the season.
Who is now out the door, by the way. Edu's no longer there.
By the way, so Wolfie, during the season, if I had told you at the beginning of the season, expectations for Arsenal is to win the season. But if I told you that Arsenal will have all these injuries, let me give you the other option. You expected Liverpool to win the league. If I turn to you and tell you, by the way, your expectations, you expect, based on your analysis, that Liverpool will win the league. But I'm telling you, I'm warning you now, midway through the season, Van Dijk will get injured and Salah will get injured. Would you have said to me, well, now I'm not that sure? Would you have still said, yes, I'm still expecting Liverpool to win the league with Salah injury?
So if I spin this round and say, if Odegaard and Saka...
Answer my question
Yeah,
first,
I will by asking you this.
Around.
If Odegaard and Saka had been fit all season, would Arsenal win the league?
They might, but that's not the... But see, hold on. But you're saying an if, but we are saying a fact that Arsenal had injuries.
No, because you're asking me an if as well. You're saying if Van Dijk and if Salah were injured.
Because I'm trying to put Liverpool in the same situation as Arsenal to be comparable here. Right?
And also, Wolfie, it's not if Saka and Odegaard had both been fit, would we have won. It's actually if Saka and Odegaard had been fit and Salah and Van Dijk had not been fit, would Arsenal have been above Liverpool?
I don't think you win the league even with that scenario.
Okay. Well.
Really?
Yeah. Honestly, I do not think under Arteta they will win this league. He does not have the bottle for this league title. Okay, and the sooner he's moved on, the better for Arsenal.
We're into a Twitter debate, so...
Yeah, hang on. This is meant to be a rational league. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, but I don't understand. I don't understand your
talk.
Okay, Wolfie, I don't understand this logic. What is that? Like, if Salah and Van Dijk are injured, if we spin it around and Saka and Odegaard has been fit, you are expecting Liverpool to still and go win the title, even though Salah has had 44 GA.
Yeah, I
Tell
still
me the
do.
logic. Okay, sorry, Wolfie. A bottle or doesn't have the bottle is not logic. It's just a feeling that people have a feeling that this person is good enough or not good enough. That is not logic. Logical is analyzing data.
If you want logic, Liverpool's strike force is deeper than Arsenal's, for example. So if Mohamed Salah was injured, maybe Gakpo could have come on the right-hand side, Diaz on the left, Jota down the middle, whatever. There would still be enough goals there. And when you've got mentality, the mentality is key. There is a way you get these results over the line. And I still think Liverpool would have got it over the line ahead of Arsenal because I don't think, based on their manager, that he can install that mentality into that squad to get them over the line. And based on what we've seen them, we've talked about it earlier, 93% of the season at top of the league, they couldn't win it. You know, they lost it last season because of Villa, and they've dropped off this season.
They won like 17 games.
Yeah, we won 17 out of 19 games.
Yeah, did you win the league?
Drew No, we didn't.
Okay.
I
It doesn't
probably
matter. Never
It
will.
doesn't matter then.
Wolfie, you're chatting shit. So the whole thing about the goals would be replaced, right? Jota 0 goals in his last 10 games. Nunez 1 goal in his last 13 games. Diaz 1 goal in his last 18 games. That's 2 goals in 41 combined games.
Yeah,
so they're
but
going to
we're
replace.
still talking
They're going to replace
hypotheticals.
Salah's goals. They're going to replace Salah's goals.
No. These are, okay, hold on, Rory. Stop,
and
Rory.
then you talk about
These are not
no. Then you talk about mentality.
No, but
What
Rory
about the
is not given hypothetical. By the way, these are facts.
Do Man City players have mentality?
You know
Do
what's
Man City
fascinating
players-
about
do
this
Man
stream?
City players have mentality.
But you know
Do
what's
Man City
fascinating
players
about
have
this stream?
mentality?
Yeah,
Yes.
They
Yeah.
do, and yet one significant injury, and they've dropped out into fifth.
But do
Where's the
you ever
mentality
not
there?
see historically in the Premier League that when a team's done a double or a treble or a four-peat that they do drop off?
Well, I've never seen a team do a full Pete. That's the level of
All
mentality.
right, have you
that
seen
they
them do a
have, but they
double
still
or a
dropped away.
treble? Have you seen a double or a treble historically in the Premier League?
Yeah, Man City did it. And followed
Okay,
it
so
up
why
with
do you
another
think
league
you've
title.
not seen a quad before then, apart from the four-peat Man City did?
It's
Because the
incredibly
It's the hardest
mentality
thing
of
to do in
players
England
does
is
drop
doing-
off.
But they won the treble, and then the following season won the 4-peat.
Yeah, and then
And also,
then they
to say their
dropped off.
mentality dropped off.
So they've
Wolfie
got
isn't true. I
mentality.
think maybe the
Yes.
hunger, goes
Hunger,
because
yeah,
they won it.
exactly.
Yeah, but that's not mentality. That's just not
Yeah,
mentality.
no, but I said they do have the mentality.
And
Yeah,
yet
no,
they've
you said
dropped off to
Arsenal
fifth.
don't.
Yeah.
Arsenal
way-
do not have the capacity under Arteta to
Can
win
you
this league.
explain to why? Can you explain to me why?
He can't. It's a feeling. He can't
What,
explain
what
it.
do you
It's
mean?
not
I
within
can't.
logic.
Just look
Can you
back
explain
over
to
the
me
last
why?
5 years.
Okay,
When- when he's
Liverpool under
clear-
Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp has stayed 3 years when they lost Europa League final, lost the Champions League final, missed on the Champions League, and missed. Am I wrong, Jamie, to say that under Jurgen Klopp?
Yeah,
Right?
we lost our
And by
first
the way,
four final.
at that time, Wolfie, Liverpool had a manager in Jurgen Klopp that reached a Champions League final, that won the league twice with Dortmund, that did achievements.
Got
so-
97 points as well.
Right? So Liverpool at that time didn't win the league. You wouldn't say that until Arsenal win it. The reality is, if Liverpool had these injuries, logically speaking, no one else stepped up because Rory literally just said the facts. The facts are no one else has stepped up instead of Salah. If Salah was injured, no one else. When
Has anyone
Salah,
needed to? Has anyone needed to?
Yes, I'm gonna give you an example. Yes.
We literally
Gakpo
just
is-
lost the PSG
Gakpo
game.
In the league.
We
In
No,
the
no,
literally
no,
just
league, 'cause
lost
we're
the
talking
no,
about
no,
the
no,
league
no,
here.
no, don't twist it. In games, I'm gonna give you. When Salah had a stinker against Nottingham Forest in the league, Liverpool lost the only game at Anfield because Salah didn't provide anything in that game. In the cup against Newcastle, when Salah was marked out, Diaz failed to rise, Jota failed to rise, Nunes failed to rise, and Gakpo failed to rise. Against the PSG in 180 minutes, apart from one moment from a long ball from Alisson, nobody have risen to play against PSG because Salah was marked out of the game. So these are facts, Wolfie.
Okay,
These
so
are
in
not
all those
feelings.
examples, Mo, you just gave, one of them was in the league. One. And that
No,
was
but
against
that's
Forest.
enough.
Wait,
That's
did
enough.
did
That's
them
enough.
losing to Forest cost them the league? Because Mohamed Salah got marked out by Alex Moreno.
Say that again.
Did Mohamed Salah getting marked out by Alex Moreno against Forest cost them the league?
No.
Okay.
But the point is,
Is
he
it
just stepped up for them in the
feasible? Is
league.
it
Let me, let,
feasible
let,
that
let
a
me, I want him to
player
finish
has
the
a bad
point so I can
game?
respond to him.
Is it
Huh?
feasible that a player has a bad game or two in a 38
Yeah, but-
game span?
But that's the whole point.
The question is, who
Salah
stepped
is
up when
having
he
an
had a bad game?
exceptional. Salah is having a season, Wolfie. Salah is on course to have a season that will always be in the record books. He is gonna break Alan Shearer's record of most GA. Even though Alan Shearer played more games, it was a 42-game season. So we're talking about a player is having an exceptional season. Is that Mohamed Salah is on course to have
See,
the
you're not
best.
doing this whole disrespect to
There
Liverpool.
is-
I don't even like Liverpool that much, but to then make it
No, but
sound
I
like
don't think
it's
you're
just
seeing the
Mohamed
full
Salah
picture,
FC is just crazy. It's just crazy.
we
No,
never
no,
said
no,
that.
It's just that if
We
they
never
didn't have
said
it,
All
that.
they
you're
wouldn't
We
talking
have
never
about
done
said
it.
that.
Mohamed Salah,
No,
and if
we
he didn't
never
do that, he
said
didn't do
that.
that. Yeah, I could say to you, their worst striker, Nunes, stepped up against Brentford to bag them 3 points when it didn't look
Yeah.
like they were gonna win the game.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
leave
but
the Liverpool.
I think-
I'm gonna. You know what, Wolfie? You know what, Wolfie? You know what, Wolfie? You know what, Wolfie? We all have agendas. I'm gonna let the Liverpool fan answer the scenario that Dan presented. Dan, simply because people forgot the scenario, I want Dan to represent the scenario that he said in the beginning of the segment about the injuries.
What did I
About
say?
the injuries, because see exactly that we went into a circle. I'm gonna repeat it.
We don't even know what we're arguing
I'm
about.
gonna repeat it. I'm gonna repeat it, Jamie, for the people that forgot in the chat. For you to say if Liverpool had injuries, if the scenario is Van Dijk and Salah have injuries, and Arsenal have Saka and Odegaard, do you think Liverpool win the league, Jamie?
Listen, they'd be in a tighter race because we've said this already with the expectations of Liverpool. They'd probably be around third, more or less. But if Liverpool lost Salah, they would be a lot worse off. I don't think we'd be having a conversation where they're so clear. He has been the difference maker. I think I said it on the last show as well. He has been the difference maker. Like that season he is having right now is not normal, and he is. It's like an individual player sometimes just carries a team, and that's what Salah's doing right now at Liverpool. He's carrying them to a league title. Yeah,
you know
that's what I think.
And Van Dijk is the defender that is carrying the defense because we have seen Kwanzaa, Gomez.
I'll give you an example. The year after Liverpool won the league, Van Dijk got injured against Everton, and Liverpool had a few more injuries then following that to the centre back area. We finished fifth. Like we ended up finishing third. Sorry, we had a late run at the end. Nat Phillips and Reece Williams were playing centre back. So we had a late run.
Different centre back pairings that
season.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
But when Van Dijk got injured, he was like our catalyst. He had just finished second in the Ballon d'Or, and he had such a big impact on our team. He got injured, and we had a few other injuries to Matip. I think went out for the season, and we couldn't recover from that position. I think we gave up on the league in January, if I'm not mistaken. So those types of players do have a big impact. Van Dijk in that the year after we won the league, he was unbelievable and he was playing in his prime, and he probably would have helped Liverpool be a lot closer. But Salah's this season, he's having a phenomenal season, and I think we're only 6 points better off than we were last season. So in terms of like our overall ability, like Salah has pushed us to higher levels.
Staffy.
Wait, hang on. You're only 6 points better off than you were this time last season.
But it's not
but you remember,
let's not do that conversation we had at the beginning of the episode, shall we?
I got a better one for you. Just so I'm just sitting here not saying anything anymore. In the beginning of the show, I was being told that this team overexceeded, and then 3 minutes later, I'm being told that if Salah wasn't there, someone else would have stepped up anyways, and we still would have won the league. This stream has done nothing but more than amazing me, bro. Like, honestly, what a stream.
So was it at this point last season, pretty much after this international break, did you start to then see a downfall in results?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was.
Rory, you got a chance. You've got a chance.
No, I don't think we did.
Got no chance.
Listen, we could lose all 9 games and we'd still win the league.
The rational here, you never know, Wolfie.
There's more chance of Forest getting closer to Liverpool than Arsenal.
I think Salah has been the difference this year, though. He has propelled Liverpool, and just the season that he's having, he has been inevitable in so many games. Even when he hasn't been that good in a lot of games, but he still gets a goal.
But again, is this the first time in football history we see a person play well and do their job correctly?
No, but it's but hold on, it's not the job correctly. Okay, this is a misrepresentation of a player that will break the record in the history of the Premier League books forever. Guys, you're downplaying it, Wolfie, when you say he's doing his job.
I'm not.
Breaking the record of the most GA is not only exceptional season would be a 40 GA or a 40. Breaking the record to be the number one is not only exceptional, it's literally something that might not be repeated ever again. I hope that people need to understand this.
If he's just doing his job, then every other Premier League player this season has failed to do their job.
That's it. Or he should be, or he has been.
So all of your players this season are failures then, Wolfie?
I don't want to go
again, go back to expectation.
No, you just said if they haven't won anything, they failed to do their job. You're not going to win anything.
Is not to get 47 GA or 50.
All of your players are failures.
Wait, I haven't downplayed what Mohamed Salah is doing. I'm just
because you are saying he's just doing his job.
That this is Salah FC that's won the league. because
No one
it's
said
not.
it was Salah FC other than you.
We said Van Dijk as well is doing a great job. We said Allison. We said Gravenberch. We said this, but we gave them. I'm gonna do this super chat, guys. I'm gonna do a super chat that is representative of what we're doing, right? Thank you, Adrian. The Athletic. Salah has won 14 points for pool this season on his own. Saka, Havertz, and Odegaard make up 65% of Arsenal's GNA. Three of these are injured. 3 of these have been injured this season. So the 3 that make 65% have been injured this season.
Yeah.
Like the
But
65%.
apparently, if you take out Salah, then Nunez and Jota will replace his goals. Even though Nunez and Jota have got the same amount of goals as Mikel Merino.
And he said he didn't underplay what Salah did, yet he said someone else would have stepped up.
Yeah.
Literally,
There's
Wolfie
no
said
logic
that.
in anything that's being said. There's zero logic.
Wolfie?
I said what?
You said someone else would have stepped up to replace Salah's goals, even though
I'm not
Nunez and Jota
saying,
have
you
got
know, I'm
the
not
same goals as-
downplaying the job you did, Mo,
Marino.
but I'm just saying if Mo never shows up on Footy Judge Mo again, no, nothing will change.
else
We'll
will
still
step
be
up.
good without you. That is literally downplaying it. It makes no sense what's being said right now.
Let me do the super
I ain't
chat.
Hang on.
downplaying
Oh,
what
go on,
he's
mate.
done. I'm just
Okay,
saying,
go
don't
ahead.
make
Go
it
ahead.
Salah
I
FC.
All I
swear
was
we have
gonna-
to move
all I was
on.
gonna
We have to
say
move on
is-
because we need to speak about Chelsea. as well.
Okay, all I was going to say is that this point last season, after game week 29, match week 29, which is I think what we're on now as well, might
Yeah.
be 30. Arsenal and Liverpool were tied on 64 points. So Liverpool are 6 points better off, and Arsenal are 6 points worse off with all those injuries. So it would be a pretty equal title race
with
if
all those
if
injuries.
Liverpool didn't have if Arsenal didn't have those injuries as well.
I
If
truly
Liverpool had
believe that. By
zero
the way.
injuries
I
this
truly
season.
believe that. Yeah, but Liverpool didn't have their main players injured this season, which is the main thing. Only Allison has been injured for a long time.
Manchester City, by the way, are 15 points worse off.
That's a
Also,
whole
even if you said
I
who
just can't deal with
who
this
would have stepped
injury.
up, even if you said someone would step up for Salah, who would step up for Salah? Okay, Nunez, but Arsenal had their version of Nunez injured at the same time. Okay, Jota, but Arsenal had their version of Jota injured at the same time. So who's going to step
really?
up? A 17-year-old from the academy. A 17-year-old from the academy is going to step up and have a
You just
compete
excuse
with
with
Dance.
when it
Okay,
comes to
how
Arsenal.
about
That's
if
all it
Salah is injured, Jamie?
It's-
Dance can step
Because
up.
again,
to do
if you go
Salah.
back to my
Yeah, no,
original
this-
point, the fact that they're going to win no silverware if they don't win the Champions
Nor are
League.
you.
Okay, hold on. That's a different story. In terms of the cups, you're right. Arteta might have done better in the cups. I don't want to turn this into a banter show.
Well, they still have Real
Seriously.
Madrid to play now. They
No,
still have
not
Real
you,
Madrid to
Jamie.
play
Not
now.
you, Jamie. Not you, Jamie. But this, I'm trying to have an objective conversation. You can say that about the cup, that he should have not lost to Man United, where he basically outplayed Man United for the 120 minutes. Havertz let them down by not scoring a lot of goals.
And
And
Newcastle
Odegaard
didn't.
missed a penalty basically in the 90 minutes that could have won them the game. Basically, that's what happened.
But he wasn't injured.
And he lost. Yeah. So that's why in the cups, he absolutely underperformed because he lost to Newcastle home and away. That shouldn't happen to Arsenal Football Club. And no one is denying this. Right?
Every
But
Arsenal fan
in-
acknowledges that.
yeah, but
No,
in the league.
one,
Go ahead, Jamie. Sorry.
the one thing I would say is good players win the big trophies. Do you know what I mean? Like Salah's
Exactly.
going to win Liverpool the league. Henry won Arsenal the Premier League, like along with the team as well. Ronaldo wins United the Premier
Double.
League. Like De Bruyne, Haaland. Like good players, you need good players to win the league. And I think if you take Salah out of the Liverpool team, they probably don't win the league because that's what good players do, and that's why Liverpool are where they are.
Yeah. Let me do
And
this
Arsenal,
just because we're
Arsenal
gonna move
also
on.
have a makeup of those players in their team as well. Kai Havertz won Chelsea
Yeah.
the Champions League, scored a goal in the final. Declan Rice carried West Ham to a European trophy. Like they've got proper players in there that will win stuff as well, and they've been missing those players. Saka was
I think
instrumental in
Saka's the
England
difference.
getting far in big competitions in the last 4 years. What are we doing here to say that those injuries don't cause an issue to how Arsenal can approach football matches? That's a ridiculous statement to make for any team in any.
Not having Saka, basically not having Saka and a striker by itself just affects the way you approach the game. It's just the way you
Yeah.
approach the game.
I can't believe
Basically.
what I'm hearing. Man. It's-
Yeah, but
so
that's
if-
because
if-
you're just
whoever loses the league
honestly,
next season,
Wolfie.
as long as they've got an injury they can fall back on, that's fine because
No,
it's
but
all
they
about
can use-
injuries.
if
Don't
they
worry
do
about
have
the
injuries,
squad
they
depth.
can use it as
Don't worry
contact.
about the quality of the team. Don't worry about the mentality of the team.
Yeah, but
as long as you have an
quality of team
injury
without
to fall
injuries
back
is
on,
competitive for the
alhamdulillah,
title
you
for the
have your
last 2
excuse.
seasons, Wolfie.
Wolfie, you're
But no
just
one
rolling
said
out.
that.
You're rolling out like the fucking CFC Janty fucking United Tray bullshit Twitter takes. And the thing is, you reel them out one after the other to the point where they contradict what you're saying. So on one hand, you say if you don't win any trophies, it's a failure of a season. So then I say every Forest player failed this season. Oh, well, no, because the expectation. Okay,
Well,
so we'll go on
are you
expectations.
now
What's
putting
the
what Arsenal
expectation of
should
a
be
team
doing
that
this
loses?
season in phase 5 and the same what Forest should be doing in 1 year?
I
under
said right at
Nuno?
the start of this, Arsenal hadn't had a good season based on the start of
Okay, so you
the
are agreeing
expectations
with
at the
me then.
start. But then I'm saying there's context. So then the expectations changed, which is what we agreed in the first part of the fucking show when we spoke about Liverpool.
Yes. I'm going to move on.
This is the problem.
and
You
I'm gonna
can't just keep repeating bullshit Twitter rage bait.
I
One
don't even know
after the
who you're
other.
talking about. And my position on
You.
Arsenal has been consistent week in, week out. And do you know what? If your standards for your team were like mine is for your team, maybe you'd be in a different place.
I don't understand. To
Yeah,
be
no,
honest with you, Wolf,
if my opinion changed, Arsenal would have won the league. There's a direct correlation between what Rory Talks Football says and the success of Arsenal Football Club. It's
it's
incredible.
actually, you're very influential.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Roy.
They
I'd
listen
agree
to
with that, Roy.
Rory streams before the game.
They saw
Makes you
me
feel like-
tweet. They saw me tweet, "Oh, Saka's injured. That's going to hurt us." And then they all went, "Well, Rory's given us the excuse now. We don't need to win the league."
Saka wasn't even injured. It's just I'm going to take this off. Rory said I'm injured.
Yeah, yeah.
Morton here is saying it was Arsenal sub who claimed that Liverpool had not faced any good team and that you had far more difficult matches. However, we took over this claim throughout the season when it became a funny claim. That's actually very true, Morton. I appreciate you so much. The thing about it is that some of the Arsenal people kept saying that Liverpool have not faced anyone, have not faced anyone, have not faced anyone.
And there was a point where that was like not entirely untrue either. Like everyone kind of acknowledged like there's a really tough run coming, and if Liverpool can get through that, they'll be in a really good spot, and they did get through that.
And they get through that, and there's people had to. The boy is saying, did Arsenal fans give the same injury context to Liverpool last season? Arsenal ran their luck for 3 years this season, and it ran out. It's delusional. But Liverpool didn't. But no one said that Liverpool bottled the league last season. And Liverpool didn't lose. And I'm gonna say this. All this thing that people say that Liverpool lost the league last season because of the injuries, that is not true. Yes, Liverpool had injuries, but during these injuries, Liverpool still won every game without Mohamed Salah. Liverpool lost the league because they fell off at the end of the season because Darwin Núñez kept missing chances.
Yeah, at this point last season, they were joint top of the league with Arsenal.
And by the way, Salah was back.
Salah
Salah
fit.
was back. Salah was back. Everyone was back. Van Dijk was back. Trent was back. The problem happened when Darwin Núñez started missing chances and Diaz. When you had the chances against Man City, where Liverpool should have won that game and Diaz missed a 1-on-1. The Luton game where Núñez missed a 1-on-1. I think there is another game. There was 9 games last season.
The season as well, didn't he?
To put into
There is-
context, just to put into context there though as well, Mo. So Salah had a poor when he came back from AFCON. He had a hamstring injury. Liverpool had some of their best form in January when he was gone. So he came back, and we had to rely on our other forwards. Like Núñez had to score, Jota had to get goals, Gakpo, and they weren't performing. And we then fell off. We did run out of legs. We 100% ran out of legs in the middle of the pitch.
Yes.
But we then weren't able to continue our momentum to the end of the season, and we ended up not winning the league. Whereas this season, we're in a much better position. And even though we might run out of steam a little bit, like we are seeing with some of the results, but we're in such a good position because of Salah.
But that's the whole point. This notion that Liverpool lost the league because of the injuries last season, that is not true.
I'll tell you, a team
not true.
was affected by injuries last season, and when players returned to fitness, they thrived and moved up the table rapidly because of it, and it was Chelsea. Chelsea were 12th of a huge injury crisis. When players returned, they finished 6th. So they got 6 positions. So that injuries can make a difference if they're the players that are injuries in key areas and can win games, definitely.
Let me go through the super chats so we can just move on. Liverpool on the way to 94 points, but they only win it because Arsenal and City fell off. We never said that. Won it on 91 points and Arsenal got 89 last season. Expected. No one said that, people. I think people don't want to listen and don't want to hear. What we're saying is that if Arsenal and Man City were to fall off this season, Liverpool are expected to win it. So that is what we're saying. But Liverpool are having a great season and Salah is about to break records. Arne Slot is exceeding expectations and you might get 97 points. And that is exceeding expectations. People are not. We never said that Liverpool are winning it because Arsenal and City fell off. Even if Arsenal and City didn't fall off, but we might have a title race. But I still expect Liverpool to win it because they're having an exceptional season. I think that I can make it more obvious, right? If Arsenal didn't have injuries, we're not going to be sitting here. 24th of March was 12 points difference between Arsenal and 20 between City and Liverpool. No one would say that. I was saying the Liverpool squad finished fifth due to injuries and everyone understood. Arsenal finished second and it's some kind of new phenomenon. Come on now. Seriously. Yes. Did they fail Arsenal? Yes. Because Arsenal should have planned better to win the league. Basically that. Morton saying, we played without Salah 17 games last season. We lost 1 game away to Arsenal, scored 40 goals and 12 of the games in the Premier League. So you're basically, Morton, you're contradicting Mike. So, or you're contradicting yourself, basically. So you won the games without Salah. So you basically didn't lose the league because of injuries. Pratyush here is saying, so this troll wants to bring FA Cup when the conversation involves Arsenal red cards, but no other competition for Liverpool without Salah. That is for Wolfie. No response? No response.
Well, I didn't even read that. Go on.
The Athletic, we have done this one. Onib is saying, Wolfie just got served up. Haha, agenda merchant. It's the Rational League. We're trying to be rational here. I'm trying to have a genuine conversation.
I have no agenda.
I am so confused. Mikel Arteta failing or the squad is not good?
I think if next season, I think is kind of boiling point for Arteta. He needs to buy the right players. Some of the signings have been poor. Next season, with the Man City obviously in transition and Liverpool, I think if the contracts don't get sorted out, are going to be in transition too. So I think next season he has to capitalise. And I think, Rory, you'll probably have an opinion on it as well, but if he wasn't to win a major trophy next season, you're coming up on 6 seasons since he won the FA Cup, I think. And I think that's when you're like, right, something needs to change. We need to take that next step.
But when they're saying that this season?
Yes.
Okay, so can I pose a question? Can I pose a question? Okay, hold on. Can I pose a question to Rory? If next season, Rory, you had, which happens, by the way, in football, you have similar circumstances to this season, what then? Like,
if we have
by the way, it is very plausible.
Season,
Kevin De Bruyne got injured back-to-back seasons, hamstring injury. It's very plausible to happen, by the way.
To be honest, if we have similar problems next season, we need to address the cause of that problem. So, and if that is something that Arteta does, both in terms of the way that the team plays, where Saka or the wingers are expected to do an immense amount of defensive work, then you have to start questioning, okay, well, is this the right approach? Also, what's happening in training? Because Havertz did his hamstring in a training session in Dubai. Why they were even training at that point, I don't know. So of course there are questions to ask, and this is why no one's saying that this was a good season or a brilliant season. It's just that not everything has to be either brilliant season, awful season. Manager's great, manager needs to get sacked. Players are great, players need to get replaced. Like it's there's normally a kind of balance in the middle.
Why are these questions not being asked this season then?
I think they have been asked this.
They have been. A lot of people asked.
Yeah.
We sat here many times and saying everyone here sat many times saying, is Saka overplayed? Should you have rested Saka? Should you have discovered one area right wing? Should Arsenal have bought a right wing? Yes, we
also said, have Arsenal recruited well enough in case of injuries? And the answer was no, and probably not. And then the inevitable happened, and now we're sat here going, probably could have recruited better. All these questions were put to Arsenal.
But what's the logical conclusion to Arsenal? Most of those questions.
Hang on, all these questions were put to Arteta in press conferences, and he answered every single one with a reason that they decided would be the right way for them to move forwards. And ultimately now, they might have to look in hindsight and go, maybe we didn't preempt the injuries that could happen. And Rory's right. Maybe if it happens again next season, history repeats itself. They either have to fill the squad with more numbers because they're one of the smaller teams in the Premier League, or they have to change the way that they are approaching training sessions with the amount of games that they might be playing compared to what they were doing when Arteta first got there.
So what we're saying, there's no accountability because there's a couple of injuries this year.
I think accountability has been taken from Arsenal. I think they're well aware of it. They're just not going to come out and say that in the public eye because they wouldn't do that. If you
accountability to you, Wolfie, is that just sacking them?
Doesn't have to be just sacking him.
What then?
I mean, for me, Rory, and as much as it might be sort of, you probably know more about it than me, but Edu leaving suggests some sort of accountability in moving in a new direction with a sporting director. It suggests to me
No, that's not why he left. That's not why he left.
Well, of course he's not, because he's gone to a much better project in the Forest multi-club model, hasn't he? But
yeah, well, no, they didn't want him to leave Arsenal. But he wasn't happy with the position he was left with.
They've gone and recruited a sporting director with a far better history than what Edu had.
That doesn't matter. That's not the context of why he left.
They've moved on, and ultimately it might have been a blessing in disguise then in that case. But
yeah, the context was that they didn't want to give Edu the full control that he wanted because he hadn't proven that giving him that full control would have been worth it, and therefore he decided to leave.
And
But
also,
the
if you had a bad 6 months at work and millions and millions of pounds were put at risk in your decision making, you wouldn't come out afterwards and go, "Yeah, my mistake, my bad." No one's going to do that. They're not going to do that in the public eye to millions and millions of people. But they might do it in at boardroom level in the discussion. Say, "Do you know what? Didn't do that well enough. Probably better if we move in a different direction. I hold my hands up." And they might do that in front of 4 or 5 people. But ultimately, they need to defend their jobs and their livelihood at the same time. They're still human beings that are being employed.
Well, no, because part of his
they
thing
are.
would be no. I'm saying part of his thing in terms of Edu wouldn't just be about Arsenal winning the league or whatever. It would be about the way he's balanced the book, etc. And Arsenal, one of the most profitable when it comes to things like PSR, etc. So he would never put down on his CV.
Yeah, but
his time at Arsenal was a failure.
at what point this season was it ever suggested that if Arsenal didn't win the league, that would be a serious failure for Arsenal football? I don't think that was ever suggested by anyone in Arsenal. I don't think it was.
You don't think that everyone's expectation was if Man City dropped off, Arsenal should be the one who step up? When Arsenal's excuse for the last 2 years was
if they do manage to still finish second in a season where we've already suggested that without injuries, Salah's responsible for 14 points for Liverpool. If you removed him from their team, Arsenal would be 2 points clear of Liverpool for the points that he's got. So that's with injuries. And when we go back to this injury discussion again, that Arsenal have had issues here,
We're not going to go back there then.
Okay, we don't have to. But Arsenal, in the crisis that they've had with injuries and certain things going against them, have managed very well, in my opinion, to remain in a title race up until 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks.
Yeah, I think there is context. It's not. I don't think there was ever a title race. I don't think. I think since January there was not a title
even
race.
if they finish second, I think everyone will look.
You just have to look at City then. You just have to look at City.
Exactly, like Rory said, it can go a lot worse. It can go a lot worse.
City have won it for
Man City will win the league again next year, and we'll all be saying, "Okay,
I'm going to end on this." Wolfie, you keep saying they won it 4 in a row, but we're talking about this season in isolation. We aren't talking about last season or the season before or the season before. So basically, it's this season only. Anyway, I want to move on because we spent so much time on it. Chelsea. Are Chelsea where they are, looking at the context, or are they exceeding expectations? Forget the expectations in the beginning of the season, because we got to look at the context of you were second, you signed a lot of players. Are Chelsea exceeding expectations, or are they are where they should be?
I mean, if you said Chelsea were 4th without any magnifying glass on the season, I think everyone will go, "Well, they must be doing something right."
Yes.
And I think ultimately Todd Bowley is probably doing that and has come out to Bloomberg today and said, "Yeah, we're 4th in the Premier League, moving in the right direction."
Do you think anyone here thinks that Chelsea are moving in the right direction?
No.
I think they were. I think they were. And then I feel like I felt like there was a point where you were like, I could kind of maybe see what Chelsea are doing here. And then now, especially after the January window, where it was like you were in the top 4, but your form was beginning to dip, and then you effectively weakened the squad to the point where now you might not finish top 4. Then I'm kind of like, okay, maybe it wasn't going where I thought it was going. Because 4th in isolation, you'd be like, yeah, that's good. I would say Chelsea getting top 4 this season, based on our expectations of what City, Arsenal, and Liverpool would do, you'd say, well, yeah, if they got themselves into the 4th spot, that'd be great. If you were to say that their form since December has them like 13th or 14th.
Yeah, 14th,
then
I think, in the form guide, isn't it?
Then you'd
14th,
be like, okay,
you are below Man United?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know if we are
Consensus.
below United, but we're
I
right
think,
with
no,
them.
I think the two
At
wins
one
against,
point, it was
Southampton and Leicester
Tottenham,
helped you, but
Tottenham, Chelsea, and Man United were all level in the form guide, like a couple of
Yeah,
weeks ago.
you're 15th in the last 5. You are below
Yeah.
Man U.
Yeah, but
Man U
so
are
I think
sixth.
we're not talking about the last 5 games, Wolfie. We're talking about from
back to December, that Everton
yeah,
game,
all
when
the way
you,
back to
Oh,
December
yeah,
when we
okay.
were
when you
poor.
had the chance to go top.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
yeah,
Hold on.
So
They are 15th on form since the
Yeah.
day they had a chance to go top, that Everton game.
Yeah.
That is the cutoff point for everyone.
Yeah.
So on that basis, you'd assume that you're not going to finish top 4 either. Like if that trajectory continues, I mean, it's quite remarkable that you're still top 4, even having.
It
beaten-
is
It does
remarkable.
show the lack of results that other teams have had in the top 4
Yeah,
for Chelsea to
100%,
still
yeah.
be
But it
there,
might
doesn't
show
it?
the competitiveness
it
of
also
other teams.
shows-
Everyone is winning against each other.
It
Everyone.
also, I mean, I think Tottenham at this point. Hang on, one sec.
Is it competitiveness or lack of
Tottenham at this
competitiveness?
point last season.
It is competitiveness. I'm going to explain
Okay,
to you.
Tottenham at this point last season ultimately was still benefiting off of the 30 points that they'd gained at the beginning of the season in the first 10 games, where they obviously won every game. And I think Chelsea are in a similar position. Ultimately, it's going to come down to this incredibly tough running that Chelsea have got. If they can get 15 points or not to better last season. If Chelsea better last season, that means they finish 5th and they probably get Champions League football off of where they finished in the Premier League. If they do that, I think you can say fairly that they have, albeit a roller coaster arrival, they have elevated themselves from last season, even though it might be minimally. They might have questionably underperformed in domestic competitions, but probably walk away with Champions League football and a Conference League. Are we going to do that? I'm not that confident, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I think Chelsea's season is a knife edge. It will either finish as expected, on course, or failure. I think it's that black and white. If you don't finish top 5, and I look at your running, and I think you've got the toughest running out of anyone in that group.
You've got a few
If you
injured
look at
players
their last
coming
4
back
or
though,
5,
right?
they're horrific.
Yeah,
And you've
But you've
played
got-
those 3 wins, if you like, the Southamptons and Leicester's. Those have been your 2 wins in the last 5, I think, off the top of my head. So your form hasn't been great. Your attack looks blunt at the moment. I know is Jackson back soon? I think, is he back?
Yeah,
Or-
it's
Essentially
Madueke
after
and Jackson
that.
back.
Jackson,
after.
Madueke, and Lavia are back now.
Yeah,
so
so-
I
That could
still
change
just don't
things.
think
That could
it's
change
enough.
things.
Yeah, that could change. And if it does, and then you look at this period and go, okay, well, yeah, we definitely missed those players, which
Actually,
contribute.
I disagree a
hang on.
little.
The problem is, though, is that also before those injuries, Jackson was massively out of form. I think he was potentially 8 games without a goal. So there was still issues there with Jackson fit and not fit. Madueke, I mean, he's got 5-6 goals this season. 3 come against Wolves at the beginning of the season. I think, again, another goal against Wolves. Ultimately, it's 2 goals away from playing Wolves this season. And also, who do we say? Lavia as well. I think Lavia is potentially someone that makes a big difference in the way that Chelsea play. But Cole Palmer's form was obviously instrumental to Chelsea picking up points as well. And that's another thing that is dipped right now. And I also believe that managers were far less aware at the beginning of the season how to set up against Maresca, and right now they're well aware of how to limit Maresca's system. And I think that's probably the reason that Chelsea is struggling right now massively, with or without injuries and form in certain players, is the issue of Maresca not being able to ultimately help his team to win games of football.
Did that happen last season as well when he was at Leicester? They had a really good start to the season.
They did, yeah. They
They really
dropped an
struggled in the
18-point
second half.
lead. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it's kind of history repeating itself in that sense. But I think Palmer is the big one. Like we talk about like game winning moments, big players win big games. Like Palmer's form and Chelsea's drop off in form is no coincidence. Do you know what I mean? He wins so many matches.
I think they go hand in hand. I think Palmer was finding it difficult to probably perform in Maresca's system, because I think there was definitely a change of role and definitely being asked to do something a little bit different to what he had to do last season under Poch. And that isn't to say Poch was our saving grace by any means. I think the right decision was made with Poch as well. But ultimately this season, I think Palmer then struggled with that. And then the confidence dried up. And I think now we're seeing a player that's struggling in the role to perform to the best of his abilities, and the confidence has dried up, which is a nightmare for any player, especially a young one.
I'm just gonna say this about Chelsea before. I don't want to take a long time. Actually, I disagree with the fact that it's what Wolfie said. it is not only about making top 5 or not making top 5. Me and Dan agreed on this before. If Chelsea stumble upon top 5 at the end of the season because the other teams are losing point, I'm going to look at this and say, well, is Maresca the right guy to take you forward? Do you need to change Maresca at this time? Do you need to look at different approach of signing players? But if Chelsea, because of the injuries, as Rory said, they come back and they pick up form and they start winning games, and we see Chelsea picking up points, maybe they need a better squad building, and Maresca is the right guy. Because Chelsea are not looking to get into top 5 only. Chelsea are looking within 2-3 years to be competing for the league and winning the Champions League. It's not only... Chelsea are not looking to be a Brighton or a Aston Villa. We're making Champions League every year as a success season. With the money that is spent and the players that they have at their caliber, in terms of the Caicedos, the Palmers, and the Enzo Fernandez, Chelsea should be looking to win the league within the next 3 years. Not only a manager that will stumble upon top 5.
Yeah, of course. They've also spent double the amount of Arsenal as well. So Arsenal spent 800 million in the last 5 years. Chelsea spent 1.5 billion. We've spent 70 million in the last month as well on 2 players to arrive coming in within one at the end of this season, one at the end of the following, I think. But yeah, it's going to be a period of time where there's incredible pressure on Chelsea to perform because of the money that's been spent, and eventually these younger players as well are going to eventually. When does their time start? So.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's just poor Chelsea. I need to see Chelsea winning games in a good form, not win game and lose game and just stumble upon top 4. To be honest with you, like that is what we've discussed this before, and it's all about the recruitment in the summer, and it's all about the manager. Is he the right guy to move forward with Chelsea? Now we know that Arne Slot is the right guy. We know that other managers are the right people. For Maresca, the form has dipped massively. I know
the main thing he needs to do. Sorry, the main thing Maresca needs to do is prove that he can. That now that he's been found out, that he can adapt again to counteract that. I think that's the next big challenge.
I completely agree with that, Rory. I think if he does that, by the way, Chelsea fans will say, "Look, it took you a long time, and it put our Champions League position in jeopardy and probably cost us a couple of trophies, but or at least trophy runs to potentially go and win those." But ultimately, yeah, I agree. If he turns it round, then you have to just hold your hands up and go, he got there in the end, which is what a lot of Chelsea fans did with Poch and were willing to sort of give him the start of the season and see if he could take that good momentum with him and build something with it. But yeah, Maresca's showing no signs of doing that and looks to be even more stubborn than what Pochettino was. But Mo, I hear what you're saying as well. I think we've had that discussion a few times. We did.
And that's why I can't yet analyze Chelsea's season until I see this last 9 games, basically.
I think they're instrumental in the future of Maresca at Chelsea in the last 9 games.
I'm just going to ask the last question before we end the show. I know I'm taking a long time because we started late, and I apologize for this for everyone here on the panel. Yesterday, Forest are linked to beat everyone to Cunha, Eucharist, one of them. And I think there is another defender that they are trying to, or a midfielder that they're trying to actually beat everyone to. I can't remember who. Do we think that if we sign these players, they can stay close to the top? I can't remember the name.
Yeah,
most of the squad's young, right?
Say that again.
Young.
Would they sell players?
Why?
Well,
why would the squad be gone?
No, young.
Most of the squad is young. Yes, Hudson-Odoi is young. Yes. Murillo is young. Milinkovic is not that old. Gibbs White is young. Yes.
Murillo's young. Wood's old. If you're talking about replacing,
but that's the whole point. They are trying to get Eucharist or Cunha to replace Eucharist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I read it yesterday.
Yeah.
Is Aina leaving on a free?
No, he'll be staying. There's an option from the club on him.
There's an option for Wolves. Yes, Wolves can keep. I looked at this yesterday. Forest can keep him another year, even if he wants to go.
Yeah.
Right.
Has there been any transfer talks with like players wanting to buy, or sorry, clubs wanting to buy some of the Forest players? Like obviously Aina, Murillo, Milenkovic. It hasn't really been like even the forwards. Like I think Elanga is obviously at United. He's doing really well there. Hudson-Odoi, similar. Like is at Chelsea. Wood, I don't think any of the big clubs will be in from. I just think they're a really good team in terms of like how they're set up. Like they just play to their strengths. But I'm trying to think,
Yeah,
would
we've
anyone
tied down
would it,
a
like
few of
would,
these contracts already. So Murillo signed
yeah.
a new deal. Morgan Gibbs-White is in talks, signed a new deal.
Oh, yeah.
Chris
Morgan
Woods
Gibbs-White.
signed a new
Yeah,
deal.
and they are trying to get Douglas Luiz back from Juventus as well.
Yeah.
Maybe a
Like
good
they
addition.
are. Yeah, it would be a good addition. That's what I'm saying. Like I looked at yesterday and I looked at the targets of Forest with the owner that is ambition. And I'm like, these guys might be
If they get-
serious.
If they get Champions League as well, the money in terms of impact that will have to be able to go out and buy more players would be huge. Like Gyökeres probably comes in if they cement Champions League. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like financial fair play.
And basically their competition for Eucharist is at the current moment is Man United. So
No competition. Yeah, but
like,
I don't know. I've seen loads of stories linking Gyökeres still to Arsenal as well, to other teams and what have you. So I'll believe them when I see them come through the door. The Cunha one, I would very much take at Forest. I think he's a quality player. I know a lot of Forest fans don't like his attitude and his shenanigans off the pitch, but he's a quality player. I've seen Collymore, I've seen Van Hooijdonk in my time. They had attitudes and what have they, but they produced on the pitch. So that's where I am with it. But what I know for sure is my owner will spend. If we get Champions League, he's spending as much as he's allowed to within whatever the restrictions are. So, and if not, maybe exceed them because the restrictions are different in European football. The 70%, aren't they, on there? But we've seen Villa probably break them this year, and I don't think it's a big fine if you break it. So I wouldn't be surprised if Forest do the same thing next year. So I think we'll be fine. We just got to get it over the line.
Even if they like go and break them and they get, say, I don't know, the 10-point deduction default, like in say 2 seasons. Like if they're in and around competing like top 6, 10-point deduction is not the end of the world. It's not like the
it wouldn't be. I'm not talking in terms of Premier League. I'm talking the European.
it's going to be a fine in Europe.
Oh, the Champions League. The Champions League. Sorry,
yeah.
Do you
I think it's
jeopardise entry to
70%,
that,
isn't
though,
it? Revenue
with
to
failing
salary
that?
or something like that. It's been tightened to. So you know, and the fine, Villa are about to break it this year, and I think the fine is tiny in itself. So,
What are you asking then?
I don't know if you jeopardise entry though. Did Juventus not fail it, and then they literally withdrew from the competition?
No, Juventus had another case.
Oh, was it a different case? Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm not sure, but ultimately, like Wolfie, do you think Forest will be there to stay then for over like the next 5 years? Do you think you're looking to sort of cement the place
Premier League wise? Yeah, I think if we get Champions League this year, then I can see as long as we
does it all ride on Champions League football though? Or what if you get Europa League football?
Money.
No, because the money's bigger.
I get that, but you're right. They haven't had Champions League football and they're there now. So why can't they do it?
If we get Europa, the likes of Gyökeres being linked and Cunha, etc.
You're doing it now, obviously without those players. So why is Gyökeres absolutely instrumental to you sustaining that?
Because he has been doing it, hasn't he? He's been playing Champions League.
He's done it with players no one expected you to do it with. So why can't you do that? Why can't you?
Because if you look at our squad outside of the likes of, say, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Milenkovic, etc., they've not done Europe and domestic, the whole Sunday, Wednesday thing. You know what I'm saying? So you need to start...
So why can't you recruit players of a similar sort of level and reputation of what you've already done, maybe an additional 5 to manage the sort of mix of having to play every Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, whatever it might be? Why wouldn't that model continue to work for us? Why do you have to then go for players that are going to cost huge amounts? Like Gyökeres is going to cost a substantial amount of any money you benefit from in the Champions League.
Yeah, because this is the way Marinakis works, bro. He's like, right, if I can throw money at this to guarantee we skip 2 or 3 years worth of development, then why not just skip those 2 or 3 years? You know what I'm saying? Like, we jump up into the Premier League. No one expects you to stay up. He chucks 150 million at it to keep us up. He then recruits over the last 2 years a lot better. and he's jumped us up. If he now gets that step into the
But
Champions League,
yeah, but I hear you, by the way. But when players like Murillo have obviously proven their ability in the Premier League and they've come in for such a minimal price without any hype, any expectation around them, why can you not continue to find those players in and around random markets that Forest have been exploring? Why would that just not be a sustainable model?
I'm not saying it's not feasible, but the two things you get with Champions League is you can attract the bigger names and you can lock down the big names you currently have who may be searching for Champions League. So if Forest were to get, let's say, Europa, and let's just say Man City come in for Morgan Gibbs-White as an example in the summer, because they can offer him Champions League football, there is a chance he may be convinced by it. I'm not saying it, I'm just saying, as a hypothetical. So that's why I think Champions League's important. I agree with what you're saying. We could establish a build off Europa, but you know what? Last time we were in Champions League, bro, we won it twice back to back. So,
did it even have a group stage then? I'm just wondering.
The interesting thing is, well, we're at it's almost like a new stage of the Premier League where we have teams like Forest, Leicester, Newcastle. These are teams that are getting into, say, the top 4, and now with the additional space of the Champions League, it's going to be a top 5. They're getting this additional money. No, well, Leicester a few years ago, after they won it. Yeah. But they kind of since then it's been Newcastle got it, then Villa, now Forest are going to potentially get it as well. And these teams that are getting Champions League,
did it with Europa as well.
Yeah, but in terms of Champions League, but because obviously the money in the Champions League is so big, but these teams don't. It's not guaranteed that they get Champions League again. And even you look at United, Spurs, how they're kind of falling off. So when you get that opportunity to get that extra revenue and go out and buy players that could impact your team for years to come, like Forest could, to say signing Gyökeres, you have to take that chance because you don't know the next time you're going to be able to get it. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's what he's thinking as well, and it does help with the development of Forest to be able to go up and compete against these bigger teams. Because the way things are, even if Man City or Spurs drop off, Newcastle, they got into it, they drop off, Forest come in, it's just going to be so mix and match that even if the bigger teams aren't there, then you're going to have another team coming up and maybe taking that spot that you should have had. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's that first season of going from a squad that is playing once a week to a squad that's playing twice a week. Leicester did it once and then dropped out. Newcastle made it and then dropped out. Villa made it and are probably going to drop out. It's very difficult to sustain it for more than that first season when your entire squad pretty much is not used to playing twice a week.
The only club that did it and didn't fall off massively. Can someone name that club recently that did it and didn't fall off? And actually,
the Premier League.
And actually, their season improved. Actually,
what are you talking? In the Premier League or Europe?
When they came second, and they were knocked out by Sporting Lisbon in that year, and they played next season in the league. They actually got a better season in the league, and they actually reached the quarterfinal in the Champions League.
Did you recruit heavily, Rory?
Fairly. Well, so we finished 5th, and then the following season we were in Europa, and obviously had that early title race that we dropped out of. That was the season where we had recruited was that the season where we recruited White?
No. Okay, so the first season you recruited Jesus and Zinchenko in the first season.
Yes.
The season after. That is the one of last season when we recruited Rice, Havertz, Timber. And it was, by the way, it was Jorginho midway through the season before.
Wait,
and it was
last year was
midway
your
through
return
the
to the Champions League? Last
year.
Last
year.
That
was the first time.
Yeah. Okay, fair. But then ultimately, look at the type of player they did bring in.
Yeah, but the top...
And the format's changed.
The top clubs as well. The top clubs are they're standalone because they can almost not support themselves in terms of revenue, but they have a lot more commercial advantages in terms of the clubs that are trying to come through. So I think I seen something before was comparing Chelsea's commercial revenue to Newcastle, and it was even with obviously the money that they're bringing in, it was 3 times the amount. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So they have that advantage. So that's why Forest in that situation, Newcastle are trying so desperately to get back into it because it makes such a big impact in terms of where their projects want to go, which is what Newcastle and
But
Forest are.
I guarantee you that the approach of Forest with getting big players like a Gyökeres or a Douglas Luiz is the right approach. What Newcastle did and what Aston Villa did is different. They kind of approach like talented players. Get big players because these players, they will play 2 games a week. It's okay for them.
I think you got to take into context as well that Newcastle, when they were in the Champions League, were in the old format, which put them into pot 4. Whereas this new format, it doesn't really matter what pot you're in. You're going to play a couple of the seeded, a couple of the mids, and a couple of the bottom. So I think it's important that Newcastle narrative that I hear a lot gets put into context.
No, but we're not talking about falling off in the Champions League. We're talking about the fall off that happens in the league due to the
I know,
games.
but you can also argue because they were playing the likes of PSG and I can't remember who else they had. They had a tough group. There was a lot of energy.
Dortmund.
In Dortmund, wasn't it? Yeah, a lot of energy put into those games. Whereas I think if you look at Villa, I think they're doing really well, both in the Champions League, they're still in it, and in the league, I think they're only 3 points off being in the top 5. So it is going to be an interesting.
We'll see how happens with Forest. But listen, people, I want to thank everyone that joined us. Rory Talks Football on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Go to TikTok, go to Instagram mainly. He does a lot of posts there, a lot of games and fun things happening there. The football story for Jamie as well, it's in the description. And Dan, the Chelsea rep, of course, the one that we have here always twice a week. Appreciate you, Dan, so much. Staffy TV and Wolfie, Forest Fan TV, great watch-alongs as well, always for the Forest games, of course. The Premier League and the FA Cup is back next week, of course. Good luck to England tonight in the World Cup qualifiers. And I will see you guys on this. We'll take it to Osam, where he's doing a Liverpool stream. He's talking about Trent and the people leaving, and it's a meltdown. So go and support Osam. I appreciate everyone that is here. We'll see you guys tomorrow, and we're out of here.